Welcome to the series of Basics of Interpretation of Statutes. In this video, we'll learn about the golden rule of interpretation. But before learning about it, the question arises that why we need golden rule of interpretation when we already have literal rule of interpretation. In the last video, we discussed about the literal rule of interpretation. If you want to learn about it, you will find the link in the description box. Now, when we discuss about literal rule, one of the disadvantages of the literal rule says that sometimes the strict application of literal rule lead to absurdity. It means the law fails in its purpose if we apply strictly the literal rule. Now, let's understand it with an example. Now, if there is a law which says that in the case of an accident, the motor vehicle which caused the accident need to stop. Now, the word here uses stop. Here, if we apply the literal meaning, which means halt or seize the motor vehicle for a certain time period, then it amounts to stop. Now, if we apply the literal meaning, in that case, even if a person stop his car for a second just to look that he has committed an accident, in that case also the provision is fulfilled, irrespective of the fact he inquired about the victim or not. But if we apply it literally, in that case, the provision will lose its significance because here the word stop does not means to seize the motor vehicle only. Here it means to stop for a time period so that the offender can inquire about the victim's condition, as well the other people can also inquire the offender with regard to the accident. Now, when the literal rule fails, then comes the golden rule of interpretation, which says that we need to interpret the provision in the context in which it is used, and secondly, to look after the consequences, that whether it fulfills the purpose of the provision or not. But the limitation of golden rule is that it comes into application only when the literal rule fails and it leads to absurdity. Now let's understand that with the case laws. Now there was a case under the Land Acquisition Act where the provision says that a person can approach the civil court if he is not satisfied with the award of compensation within a period of 6 months, which starts from the date of the award. It means here the limitation period to approach the civil court is 6 months, and the period will start from the date of the award. Now the word date of the award is in question because the aggrieved party in this case comes to know about the award on a later date. Now, as per him, the limitation period shall start not from the date of the award but from the date on which the aggrieved person comes to know about the order of the award. The court here says that if we apply the literal rule of interpretation, in that case, the person who wants to challenge the award will become helpless because he comes to know about the award on a later date. How can a person can approach the court when he has no knowledge about the award? Therefore, the date of the award should be read as date on which the person gets the knowledge of the award. So here the knowledge is significant and not the date of the award. So by applying the golden rule, the court read the word date of the award in the context in which it is used and held that it should be read as knowledge of the award and not as date of the award. In another case, a truck was confiscated on the ground that it carried contraband product, that is opium. But the owner of the truck was not aware that the truck is carrying opium. Now, the provision says that if the truck carries any contraband product, in that case, it shall be confiscated. The word uses shall, which means that the authority is bound to confiscate the truck. When the matter reached to the Supreme Court, the court says that though the word shall means mandatory, but if we read the law, how can you confiscate the truck when the owner of the truck is not aware the truck is carrying any contraband product? Therefore, in such circumstances where the person is unaware about the carrying of the contraband product, in that case, the word shall should be read as may, Because the golden rule of interpretation says that the word should be interpreted in the context in which it is used. Now, if we talk about the advantages of the golden rule, it helps to tackle those cases where the literal rule fails. Secondly, it helps to bring flexibility to the law because the judiciary can interpret the law keeping in view the context and not applying strictly the literal rule. Now, if we talk about the disadvantages, the first disadvantage is that it involves subjectivity to the law. Now, because to decide whether the literal interpretation leads to absurdity or not depends upon the interpretation or the opinion of the judge, and it varies from one judge to another. Secondly, when we talk about the flexibility, it also gives the power to the judge to lay down the law because he is interpreting the law keeping in view the context but by not applying it strictly, that is literally. Therefore, this minor discretion also leads to judge make law, which leads to violation of the doctrine of separation of power, which we have discussed in the earlier video. Despite the disadvantage, the golden rule proves beneficial in the interpretation of the law because it helps to maintain the balance between the intention of the legislature and judicial discretion. I hope this video helps you to understand the concept of golden rule of interpretation and how it is different from literal rule of interpretation. For more such videos, please subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends.